Hospitality is where we started, and we've transitioned into some other business ventures.
I just believe that I can always train for skill, but I can't train you to be nice.
And I kind of gave that up and decided to just go a different direction.
I don't care. You could be whatever you want to be.
And now, here's Just Sayin.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. My guest has a lot of experience in the public relations business, Just Sayin. She has worked at Rubenstein Associates down in New York City for quite a long time before starting Impact PR and Communications. She's been on the cover of a few magazines, including Hudson Valley Magazine, the Women in Business issue. She was a 40 Under 40 recipient, a guest speaker, and host of several events, and is a frequent guest lecturer at Marist College as she continuously immerses herself into the community through nonprofit work and podcast appearances like this one. So welcome, Filomena Fanelli.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. I landed on the perfect podcast. This is the real one that everyone wants to be on, just saying.
Well, it seems appropriate that we're using this technology with the distancing and the busy schedule, take advantage of some great technology, be able to chat a bit about obvious things. You're on the hot side of the burner these days, so it appears everybody wants you. But I wanted to talk to you as a business owner, as well as a wife and a mother, to see how things have been going for you during these last few months. Let's get into how you're being able to juggle your business, your staff, your husband, your kids. So, I don't know, homeschooling, dinner plans, the family social activities, all that stuff.
Oh, Charlie, the juggle is real for everyone out there right now. And I think we're all being tasked to wear so many hats and to have a little bit of a sense of humor about this, because some of those hats are ones we've been wearing all along, and some of them are new to us and require a good deal of flexibility, of multitasking, and maybe even taking on skills we didn't have before, such as these technology skills that we've all had to immerse ourselves in so suddenly. But for me to make this work, at least as best I can, it's required me to block my time religiously. So I start the first part of my day doing homeschooling work, and I feel like I've lived a little lifetime by 9 a.m. And then I go all in with our clients, many of whom have coronavirus-related matters to deal with and internal matters. So we've been doing a ton of crisis and internal communications with them. And then also just kind of keeping all of us as a team, as a PR agency, in a good, healthy space, in a place where we can be creative and come up with solutions and be flexible with ourselves and with others. And then, managing family and being a good friend and needing to meet our obligations is definitely a challenge, but one that I feel like we're getting through. We're getting through, and we're having a lot of laughs along the way.
Well, that's important to have a sense of humor through this whole thing. But I think, it really shows that it kind of separates the people who can be nimble and flexible and grasp new ideas as far as like technology on the fly really quickly to make sure that they can service their clients and do the best job that they can for the business that they offer. You seem to be doing that as well.
I think that's true, Charlie. And I think we also have to remember to be kind to ourselves, and that when we are trying new things, to not let the fact that they're new or uncomfortable stop us from trying to do them.
Well, what advice would you give a business that is trying to get their message out for a new product or a service, especially during these challenging times?
The first thing I tell businesses right now is to step back and read the room, take in what's going on, and not on a monthly or a weekly basis, because the news is moving way faster than that. I don't know if you've ever had a thought about something that's been going on recently, and then by noon there's a press conference that undoes everything that you're thinking. So I ask people before they move forward with announcements, with launches, don't monitor month to month, don't monitor week to week, look hour by hour and make your micro adjustments along the way. And also be a little bit honest with yourself. This is the time to ask the question, and it's very uncomfortable for people to ask, but am I a need or a necessity? Is my good or service something that people need, or is it a nicety? And I think that can kind of guide your thinking. If it's a need and it meets the current needs of the world we're in, that's obviously a launch that can happen. or an announcement that can happen. But if you're a nicety, not a necessity, you might want to rethink your strategy.
You have a really great acronym that you use and other people should use. I'd like you to kind of explain that a little bit, called HIM.
Yeah, so when this pandemic hit, we were getting phone calls from our clients, and I even had people private messaging me or calling me on the phone looking for guidance. And they were asking kind of the question that you started with, like, is this appropriate to share? Is now the right time to do this? And how can I be part of this dialogue and keep my business moving forward? And I came up with this acronym. I actually invented it out of nowhere as a quick, memorable way to ask yourself the right question. And that question is this something I can share with him? Is this the right time to share it with him? And that stands for helpful, informative, and moving. And by that, I mean information that either helps solve the problems that we're having right this minute, or is information that people really need to know. It's critical. Maybe it's if it's safe to visit their mother in a nursing home, or where they can get those face masks that they need for their employees, or how to get access to PPP funds if you run a small business. Those are things people need to know. That's the informative. And then my personal favorite are stories that are moving. You've been in the news business for a long time, Charlie, and you understand that people need to be moved emotionally for stories to really resonate with them. That's still happening in this pandemic, and hearing about how lives are improved, hearing things that give us hope, faith, and inspiration are really what's so needed and what the news craves right now. And ideally, the very best stories, the ones I like the most and that are a total green light, not even a green light, but put that pedal to the metal, are ones that hit all three buckets. They're helpful, informating, and moving, even in the world that you're looking around at right now.
Excellent. Good. As a small business owner, have you been able to benefit from the government stimulus that went out?
Yes, first of all, I want to just say I feel very fortunate to be among the lucky folks who have received the SBA's PPP funding. We moved rather fast when that announcement was made. I had a feeling those funds were going to go fast. I think they went even faster than all of us expected. And we applied the day the funds originally opened up at 8:45 that morning. I stayed up late the night before preparing them. And so I knew how fortunate I was, but I also know that this is a time to prepare and to move quickly, whether it's over PPP funding or whether it's over an idea you have for your business. If you see something that will help you move forward, you need to not hesitate. You need to move.
Good advice. Yeah. So tell us how that works. You get the money, but do you have to pay it back at some point?
So there is the forgiveness provision in that SBA funding, and I'm not an accountant. Don't play one on TV, just saying. But what I do know is that I've been told if you spend 75% of the funding that you received within an 8-week period, that loan will be forgivable, and the rest is supposed to be used for things like rent and utilities. And I was hanging tight to our team. I have an incredible team of professionals that I work with, and they are where the magic happens. I was holding tight to that anyway. This just gave us a little bit of extra breathing room. There are businesses out there, though, that have not gotten that funding, and I realize the seriousness of that, and I really hope that they either got it at this point or will get it soon, because I'm rooting for everyone out there.
Yeah. So a particular point that you made, 75% of it has to be spent on keeping employees, retaining employees, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
That's supposed
Right.
to be for salaries, health benefits, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to me, as long as we could hang in there, even if that funding wasn't there, I felt like it was the right thing to do for our business and our values.
Mm-hmm.
It was very important to me to protect our team that's placed their trust in me. But this makes it even easier to make the decision I was going to make anyway. And so I'm very grateful.
What about the landlord? Your rent space in Poughkeepsie, you've got 5-6 employees now. Is your landlord cut you a break as far as the rent, or is it due every month just as it always was?
So when this first happened, before the SBA programs were announced, I reached out to our landlord through the property management company. And I have to say, I give them so much credit. They were very flexible. They were like, send what you can and we'll work it out from there. Just do what you can.
Yeah.
And with that PPP funding, It gives us the flexibility to go ahead and continue to make those full payments and to be all caught up to date. But you remember those moments. I think it's times like this that you see the character of the people you do business with,
Right.
and whether they're willing to have a conversation or meet you where you're at, and that's very appreciated.
You're very active on social media. You use it well. I saw one of your posts where I think that there was a lesson that could be learned by the Tiger King guy. What was that?
Okay, so like everyone else, when this whole coronavirus thing hit and we were all suddenly home all the time, I've been watching more Netflix. True confession.
Yeah.
And of course I had to watch The Tiger King. Who didn't?
Me.
And I saw it. You didn't watch it yet?
I can't watch it because of what I perceived to be the cruelty to animals. So I couldn't watch it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think the one good outcome there is that many of us are more aware of the issues around exotic animals right now, and kind of more willing to take a stand on that front, and we're more aware. So that was a good outcome. But I watched sort of in horror. It was a little bit like watching a train wreck happen. And then I thought, there's something this guy is doing that I advocate all of our clients do. And that's market on multiple levels and across multiple platforms, reusing things they create in many, many ways. And Joe Exotic, who's the lead focus of this Tiger King series, does that. So like, love him or hate him, put your assessment of his mullet and his leopard print shirts aside. The guy's a genius. He's figured out how to take his message to social media, how to become his own news outlet, and broadcast his messages. He had broadcast shows like the one you're doing, Charlie, and he was active on social media. He was in front of the news media and sharing his stories that way. And I always tell our clients, whatever you do, reuse it multiple ways and look at it across paid, earned, social, and owned platforms. So if I write a blog post, I want to create a social graphic that will then have a link to drive back to that blog post. I want to make sure I'm placing that content in appropriate news outlets. I want to get on and do a video, even though I don't have the kind of experience you do, Charlie, talking about what it is I'm doing, so that people who are more auditory learners are going to hear that message.
Right. It's always exciting when a company develops a new product or a new service, and you have just created a helpful and, in my opinion, much needed enrichment program for personnel dealing with reporters in the press, media, that kind of thing. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Charlie, back when this all started happening, I saw not only the usual need for media training that we've identified for many years. I mean, people have always needed a little bit of help knowing what the media wants, how to succinctly convey messages, and how to deal with even the most challenging journalistic styles out there. But this has brought it to a whole nother level, what we're in right now, because people need to do interviews like we're doing them from our homes. I have a mock green screen behind me right now so that you don't have to see my downstairs and my kids' toys. Also, it's very hard to be dynamic from behind your laptop screen and without the comfort and the benefit of using your full body to present. And also, people who never had to be the spokesperson for their organization have been thrust into that role. They're being asked hard questions. They're being told to do a town hall for all of their employees over Zoom. And so we saw that need and we said, let's take what we were doing in person with people before this, update and refresh it for the current times, make it extra relevant, and deliver that virtually to people who need it most. So now we are doing media training remotely, presentation skills, and also offering tips on how to look best when you head on to these conference calls, even if you have sweatpants on the bottom half of your body, which, just saying, I may or may not.
Right, but you make a really good point. The camera doesn't lie, and it can tell when you're a little kind of like back on your heels, or you don't really know the answer and you're kind of fishing for it. Camera picks all that stuff up. So the better you're prepared for that and how to convey your message in front of a camera with a light or with a reporter that you don't know who's asking questions or firing things off is probably a really good service and exercise for people to kind of go through so that they are prepared when that happens, because you're never fully prepared. But at least if you know what you're trying to convey, what you want to convey, then you could be a little bit more prepared for it, right?
Yeah, well, this gives you a safe place to practice those skills before you're in the line of fire, so to speak, and also gives you tools to identify. So when those things happen, you say, aha, this is that thing that they told me about that might happen, and it allows you to better deal with it.
Yeah, very important.
Preparation is half the battle.
No question. I'd say 90% of the battle, but that's just me. And
90% is good.
Yeah. Well, hey, Filomena, it was great catching up with you. Thanks for taking the time. And we got to do this again. Maybe we could actually be in the same room next time.
I love that.
Filomena Fanelli, check her out, prwithimpact.com. She has some really good insights, some good business instincts as well. She is a gifted individual. And Filomena, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Charlie.
So that will do it for this edition of our Just Sayin podcast. Keep calm, everyone. We are all in the same storm, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're all in the same boat. Some people are really suffering more than others. So let's all keep an eye out for opportunities where we can maybe throw a life raft or some kind of support to those who are in need. Storms come and go. And while for this storm, we might not be in the same boat, but it sure helps to weather the storm if we're all rowing in the same direction. I'm just saying. Anyway, tune in next week when we catch up with former radio morning disc jockey Mark Bolger, who has completely shifted his career. We'll catch up with Mark and see how that's going and get his reaction to the night he was the topic of conversation on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Just Sayin podcast.